Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. Alright folks, here we are just before market close on Monday, August 30th. We're going to take a look at Paysafe today. And Paysafe I have been close to since it was BFT, and I was wheeling it for quite a while, and then, my shares got called away at some point, and I just said, okay, let me look elsewhere. So looking back, because it was requested by a watcher who commented on another video, and to that end, if you have a ticker that you'd like to see me cover, feel free to drop that in the comments below. I'll respond and let you know that I see the comment and that I've added it to the list. If you don't see that response, assume that I've missed it, and feel free to go ahead and leave a new comment in subsequent days or weeks, and I'll see it eventually. All right, so Paysafe, obviously having just an absolute challenging year so far. This is the year to date, and you see just this really horrendous drawdown from about 19.5 at this point, and then just been stuck underneath that 50 MA basically for the entire rest of the year, starting in about March. And at this point, it's sort of in no man's land also, because this 806 low point doesn't leave previous supply and demand zones to try to trace off of, because back here this low point was 960. So we don't exactly know where buyers are going to be looking to scoop up Paysafe, aka demand, at this level, and we don't know exactly where sellers are going to be happy to jump out, aka supply, like at least until we get up into some of these levels either. So it's a little bit challenging at the moment, but let's see what we can snatch out of this chart to at least offer some potential indications of what could be coming. Now, one thing that you'll see here on the chart, I did throw in this formation here. So here's a series of slightly higher lows coming in, and this is set to intersect with these couple of lower highs that have been coming in. So essentially forming this wedge here, if the price can stay in it. Now, I don't know if it will. I don't know if it'll stay in it as it gets actually really, really tight around this area, which will be the very beginning. Well, it's just in a few days, actually. That's September 2nd. It starts to get incredibly tight. And if it does pop out of this, it could make a big move in one direction or the other. I don't know if it'll be a big move to the upside or to the downside, but you could be looking for some volatility if it does stay within this confined zone until then and then pops out. Now, I would watch it very, very closely to see which direction it goes, and if it actually is making a move that's strong enough in one direction or another that it makes sense to take a position, or to exit a position, I guess, for that matter. But just something to look at. Also on the MACD here, you see it is also tightening quite a bit, quelling a bunch of this bearish momentum that has built up over time, and looking as though it may throw a bullish crossover on the MACD if that orange MACD line crosses above that blue signal line. And it's well below the baseline at the moment, and definitely has a bunch of run room to the upside if it's able to string together some bullish momentum, sort of like not even to be D, just to be proven more so than anything. I mean, you look at this volume here and you see just basically a sea of red, but also the peak volume is predominantly selling pressure, right? So it's in a pretty tough position, obviously. Now, it could certainly change course here at any point in time, but I don't want to paint an overly hopeful picture, because these are just trading indications that you have to see what happens when they play out. Now, the other thing that I noticed is, if we back it up here just to provide a few examples, here's a gap that Paysafe had left, gap down that it then filled a few days later, gap down that it then filled a few days later, and this gap up that it then filled a few days later. Now, it does have this big gap down that it hasn't yet filled, and it's sort of holding this a bit longer than most of these other ones had held. This is probably the best example here. This is a gap down, and this took about, that was on 511, and it filled it here, looks like at about 6-7, so almost a month on that one. and this one came down on 816. So this could be another couple weeks in the making, but it does seem to have this progressive history of filling these gaps within a few weeks. And so to the extent that that could play out here, that could do a couple of things. One, it will get it out of this wedge. Two, it'll probably establish the price action above this 20 MA. Three, it'll probably get this bullish crossover going. And four, it should get this price activity above $10. I mean, not super far above $10, but as a percentage increase, that's pretty big for a stock that's such low cost at this point. Now, that said, the other side of that coin is just because this has happened previously does not mean that it needs to happen again or that it will happen again. It's just an indication that sort of could be a data point to consider if you're looking to see what Paysafe is going to do. It's always, crystal ball territory, predicting the future, seeing what it's going to do down the line. So we take the indicators that we have and we take the history that we have and try to come up with a hypothesis, right? So that said, just keep in mind it doesn't have to fill this gap. There's no rule. Just because it has in the past even. But those are the things that I'm looking for. Now, I don't really have a great downside, say, stop loss area because there's just this 806. So, I mean, I could throw 806 in there, but that would just mean that it's making, again, lower lows. So the degree to which anyone would want to set a stop loss if it can't hold that previous low zone at the moment, that puts you about 30 cents. Risk at this point per share. To the upside, these actually line up pretty well, either like within these gaps or lining up with the gaps themselves. So if we actually, let me zoom out a little bit more here so we can pull in some extra activity. So one area that we see here is this pretty solid previous support area. Well, I'm just going to leave these in blue. It's fine. You see support here, retested it there, tried to hold here, and that's where it sort of fell through. So it could come up and kind of get through that pretty quickly again, since it didn't really resist it on that gap down, obviously. And then here's another area, strong area of resistance recently. Previously, it was a strong area of support until it lost it. So that's another area that I'd look at, 1111. And these are just areas where the price action might get kind of sticky. Could be areas to think about taking some profit off the table if it gets there. Areas to think about dip buying into price strength if it runs past it and then comes back and shows potential strength. But these are the areas I think plotting up to 1255 is probably quite enough at this point because more than anything, it just needs an overall trend reversal, right? Which would be getting it over this 200 MA, which is going to continue to come down probably, even if the price continues to rise. So we'll see what happens. Quickly on the data side of things, I did see there's this price target, this consensus price target from these 9 buy ratings from analysts of 1411. So that's quite a bit of upside for Paysafe, a little less than $6. So not quite double, but pretty darn close. And not bad if the degree to which that plays out in the fundamentals of the company over time, or convinces retail to come in any large grouping, and or convinces institutions to come in to any large degree. And kind of surprisingly, and this may have been very, very different previously, but the short interest is pretty low per Ortex's estimate at the moment, showing just 6% of the free float being shorted and utilization just a smidge over 50%. So if shorts continue to stay away from this, that could be a good sign as well. They're not adding undue selling pressure into a stock that already has had its, mega battle with a lot of selling pressure just organically from retail and from institutions. All right, folks. Well, I certainly wish you the best if you're trading Paysafe or if you end up jumping in. Good luck. And I hope that your trading week got off to a good start today. I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next video.